everyone. Welcome back to Build. I'm your host, Brittany Jones-Cooper. Titans follows young heroes from across the DC universe as they come of age and find belonging in a gritty take on the classic Teen Titans franchise. Minka Kelly stops by today to talk about her role as Dawn Granger, but first, here's a trailer from Titans.
Are you sure it's him? We called Gotham PD. He hasn't been seen for over a year.
What was that?
Disappeared, they said.
They thought he might be dead.
Why come here? Why Detroit?
The weather? Where's Batman? Hey, little birdie's alone.
Let's just hope the hell he's passing through.
I'm Detective Dick Grayson. You want to talk about what happened?
Can you help me?
Mom.
Rachel. That's what she calls him.
There's something inside of me. Something evil.
Nothing bad's gonna happen to you, don't worry.
Taking care of a kid is complicated. You know that better than anyone. And I know how healing it must be doing what Bruce did for you when you lost your parents. What happened between you and Bruce?
Guess we had different ideas of how to do the job. We're gonna go see some old friends of mine. Ta-da! Oh my God.
Rachel, I like your hair.
Call me Corey.
What do you want from me?
I've been looking for you. There are people out there trying to hurt you.
Total badass.
I feel danger.
There you are, dear.
What are you doing?
We all must make sacrifices, child.
Does it ever go away?
What?
The feeling you got left behind?
Everyone, please help me welcome Minka Kelly. How you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Are you fully recovered from Halloween?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just traveling on Halloween,
Oh,
so I
okay.
kind of...
I just woke up today feeling like it was a Friday. So I was like, thank you for showing up, because it's not Friday, it's Thursday. I had to remind myself. So Titans, I know a lot of people are excited about, especially since you guys had your big premiere at Comic-Con. I want to know what that experience was like for you, because the DC fans are so loyal. So what was that Comic-Con experience like for you?
It was really fun. It was really fun to be able to watch the show with the fans. I mean, it really elevated the experience. Also, we found out on the carpet that we got renewed for a second season, so that also elevated the whole experience, and also watching it with them while they were reacting and clapping and yelling and screaming and laughing in all the right places, it just felt so good. It was just really fun. It was a great way to premiere it.
And people know the Teen Titans, but this is kind of a spin-off of that, and it's much darker, right?
Oh, it's definitely not Teen Titans.
No.
This is grown-up Titans.
So what are some of the differences?
Well, this is the most grown-up version, I think, of any superhero show you'll see, which is why it's great we're on a streaming service, because we get to take those liberties and go a little bit deeper and darker, and we're a lot more bloody. We use a lot more colorful language, and, you know, Akiva Goldsman and Jeff Johns have done such a great job in creating this world and making it so grown up, but also keeping the superhero aspect of it, which is so important and fun. But you know, it's fun.
And you played Dove, who is part of a duo, right? Devon Hawk. And what I think is so cool about DC is that these characters kind of change and evolve through the comic books over time. So I've read, like, sometimes Dove and Hawk have been a man and a woman, and I love those different iterations. And so what is this iteration of Dove and Hawk?
So we show all of that. We go back in time. There is a whole flashback episode that goes, you see, before I came along, before Dove was a female, you get to see how I became Dove and how Hawk and Dove, or Dawn and Hank meet for the first time and how they become these characters together. So it's you get to see all of it, and they stay so true to the stories in the comic books. I mean, I remember reading the comic books beforehand and really falling in love with the story and how it came to be, all the way down to Hank's resistance to Dawn becoming Dove at first, and her just being like, look, I'm here. I didn't choose this, but we've got to do this. It's been really great.
Because these aren't people with superpowers. These are just people, and that you can see. What I love is that you can see their humanness so readily and their flaws, but they're really vigilantes and they want to make the world better.
Exactly. That's what I love about this show too. Is that this is about lost, broken souls trying to find their place in the world, and Hawk and Dove in particular are these very flawed and broken people who found each other. And I also love that you don't often see a love story in comics. You get to see these two characters who are very codependent. And I also, love being able to play a female who is warm and kind and nurturing, but also a badass and can kick ass and saves the guys sometimes. And, the female doesn't always have to be the damsel in distress. On this show, sometimes the guys are the damsel in distress and we have to save the day. And I think that those two characteristics are not mutually exclusive in women. And it's really great of our writers to see that. And I'm just so honored to be a part of showing that and playing that.
I did love that I saw her rescuing him, and I was like, right on, Dove. So let's dig into Dove. That wardrobe she puts on looks a little constricting. And I've heard the wings are quite heavy. So what was it like the first time you put on her suit?
It was really empowering. It was really fun putting it on for the first time after the 3 people helped me get into it. But I love it. You just can't help but your posture change, and you feel strong and you feel ready to take out some bad guys. And I remember the first time Alan Richson and I first had them on in their doneness, we were just like, wow, look at us. We are doing this. But it's really fun, Yeah.
I'm imagining you probably had to do some training to prepare for this role. I've checked out your Instagram, and you're pushing a lot of heavy things and pulling a lot of heavy things. How important is that for you to do those things so that you can do this role?
I have an incredible trainer in LA. His name's Jason Walsh at Rise Movement, and he got me really ready for this. He's done a lot of this, so he knew what he needed to do to get me ready to be ready for the stunt coordinators to be able to ask anything of me, because I want to be involved and I want to do everything that they'll allow me to do. So he got me really strong. And so then I got out there and I did fight training. I also had to train in ballet because my character comes from a background of ballet, jiu-jitsu, and she's a gymnast. So I had to get in that sort of shape to be able to sell that.
You said you'll do as much as they let you. What is the line there? I've always been curious.
There are some things, the fight style of Dove in particular is that of a dancer, and she is a mixed martial artist for her whole life. And my stunt double has been studying that her whole life. And so there are things that I just can't do. Like you see in the second episode, the fight where Hawk is throwing her around and using her as a weapon. And she's, I can't, I would love to, and but that takes a real professional. And so it's those sort of stunts like that. And like being thrown off of the roof, they wouldn't let me do that as much as I wanted to.
That turns into like an insurance issue.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm like, I can do it. I can do it. I've jumped out of airplanes. I can do this.
We trust you,
Yeah,
but
no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For you, what has maybe been the most challenging thing that you have done on set, or maybe your hardest day filming?
I think the storyline in the flashback episode, I think it's episode 9, where you see the origin story of Hawk and Dove, was probably the most challenging because it was also very, very personal. It's also why I love this character so much. I identify with so much of her backstory too, the way she I mean, the way her and I lost our mothers are very different, but the way we dealt with it is very similar. And so I just love how real and honest and authentic our writers have made the storytelling. It's so relatable, and you really have a lot of compassion and empathy for these characters.
That's what I love about, I'm not a huge comic book girl, but I have dabbled. And that's what I love is that there's so much emotion in these stories. It's always beyond the action. The backstories are so fascinating. Would you say that you were a comic book fan before this?
I was not.
Okay.
I was
Okay.
not. And you know, it's by design. There are a lot of people making this show who don't have a comic book background, and that's by design because we're not making another superhero show. We're making something very different, and I think you probably noticed that. So just so that we don't fall into the traps of any other show, we are making something so different and our own. So yeah, that's how I get myself off the hook. But I did do my homework as soon as I had the opportunity. And also so honored that they would see me and Dove because I love her to death.
That said, then, what's been the most surprising thing you've found out or discovered about the DC universe? Because there are so many different characters and superheroes, so many different iterations, so many different storylines. It's really fascinating when you look at it.
It is. It is. I didn't know any of these characters, and so it's really fun to learn. It's just endless. The places you can go and the stories you can tell and the hearts you can touch and the different sort of ranges. Like, you know, in that episode in particular, there's no superhero whatsoever. It's all backstory. It's all relationship. It's all emotion. It's, you know, we're bare. I have zero makeup on. I, you know, did it as honestly as I could and tried to tap into what it was like when I lost my mom too. And so it's, as an actor, it's fun to be able to go to those places, and it's also can be very healing too in a very selfish way. So that's been surprising, I guess. You never think that that's where you're going to go when you're doing a superhero show. So that's been surprising, I guess.
As a viewer, that makes me want to go back and even keep watching more intently, just knowing your ties to it and what kind of inspired you. I think that's really fun for viewers to know.
Good,
Yeah.
thank you.
And then what I also love is you see the different side of characters we do know really well, like Robin. This is Robin, and you only ever see him with Batman, but he's got a whole nother life in this series.
Yeah. Batman is omnipresent, and he's there, but he's not there in the show, and it's really fun to see how it's fun to see how all these characters became who they are. That's what this is about. We get to learn why these characters became who they are, why we chose to be vigilantes, what hurt us, where we were traumatized in our lives that made us fight for justice, want to be warriors for justice.
The way you phrase that, and we won't get political, but that it made me feel like so many people feel now, which is why these superhero shows, I think, are so having a moment and people can connect to them in these ways because everybody's fighting for something different in their own lives. And I think it's nice to see that these are real people fighting for big things.
That's right.
So you're doing the show, but I also know that you're writing.
Yeah.
So tell me some more about that.
I made this voting video. I created and directed it. It was really fun. I'm really proud of it. And I wrote a screenplay that I'll be directing that Simon Kinberg is producing, which will have to happen after the second season of Titans, which we're putting together right now, which I'm very excited about.
What's the screenplay about? Just little tidbits. You don't have to tell me everything.
It's a coming-of-age story. It focuses on a mother-daughter relationship.
That's enough.
Mother-daughter relationships are very complicated. We'll say that much.
How did and you've been acting for so long, and what kind of inspired you then to pick up the pen and tell your own stories?
It's a story I've been wanting to tell for as long as I can remember. And I've talked about it for a really long time. And Peter Berg is a dear friend of mine, and he knew it, and he finally just made me sit. He just told me to if you just sit down every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning and just write for 20 minutes every day, eventually you'll have 90 pages. And a year or two later, I had 120.
And then you're deciding to direct it as well. Have you directed anything else? Or this will be your first?
Other than the voting video? No, this will be my first. So I've been I shadowed Simon Kinberg when he was doing X-Men. I'll be shadowing Pete in a couple of weeks on the movie he's shooting right now. And so now that we won't be getting into it until after season 2 is done, I'll be shadowing whatever director will let me in any episode I'm not in on Titan.
That is so cool. That is the best way to learn.
So
right,
lucky,
on the
yes.
job.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I think we have a couple questions before we get out of here. So let's go to the audience. Who do we have first?
Hi.
Hi.
So this is really the first time that you've, as an actor, gone into this, like a universe like this that has such a dedicated and energized fan base. And I was wondering, you kind of touched on this already a little bit at Comic-Con, but I was wondering if you could elaborate more on what it's like to be a part of a series that both has been around for so long and also has such a large and excited fan base.
It's an honor just because you have this built-in love from these really passionate, loyal fans. But it's also sort of a relief to be playing a character who no one's brought to life yet. So there's no baggage there. You know, I get to make it my own. And so it's, and that they're receiving it the way that they are with so much love is such a relief because I know that they're honest. You guys know your stuff and you know you want it to be done right. And I just feel so happy that it's been received so well so far.
You do know a thing or two about dedicated fans, though. I mean,
yeah.
Friday Night Lights fans are pretty loyal and dedicated.
Yes.
So I feel like that was good training for you.
Yeah, sure. But comic book fans, you don't want to mess with. Yeah. You don't want to make them unhappy, for sure.
Next question.
Hi. Speaking of like the books themselves, just like how have you as an actress been able to like capture like based on like how many different people have interpreted the character of Dove and just like how you as an actress would be able to like justify them and like almost like encapsulate all of that within your performance?
I don't know that anyone's played Dove before. Have they?
I meant like through like the books and
sure.
your research of the character.
Sure. Well, from what I read, she was a very warm and kind and nurturing and a caretaker. So I feel like I have some of those traits. I was a nurse, so I think maybe sometimes that can come in to play. And then she's also a badass, and I kind of figure I got a little of that too. So I just every time I go to work, I just try and tap into it as honestly as I can and relate to it as much as I can to my life. And fortunately, there's been a lot of that. I mean, my relationship with Hawk is a very codependent, dysfunctional one, and I've had my experience in those relationships too. So I know what that's like. I don't know, I feel like we've all had.
We all have, yeah. I was like, co-sign.
So that was a really relatable thing. And the relationship with the mother wasn't hard for me to tap into either. So the writers have written such beautiful episodes that it hasn't been hard to find source material in my history for.
Thank you. And last question.
If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
It would be to sing.
Very cool.
I feel like it's a superpower to be able to open your mouth and that beautiful sound comes out. I think that's a superpower, and that's a superpower that I wish to have.
I say that all the time. I'm like, if I could sing, you couldn't tell me anything.
I would sing everything.
I would be unstoppable.
I'd be
it would
singing
be
this.
over. It would be over because I cannot sing at all.
Me neither, honey. I can sing as long as the volume is up loud enough in the car. Then I sound great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you may not be able to sing well, but you can act. And this was such a fun show to watch. And I know the fans are loving it. And if you haven't checked it out, you're going to love it. Titans is streaming now on DC Universe with new episodes available every Friday. So make sure you check it out and give it up for Minka Kelly.